In the spirit of the holidays, we want you to celebrate with your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo handicappers and do it at a discount by giving you a one-time 25% off everything you can fit into your cart between now and midnight on December 25th using coupon code GIFT25 when checking out. While this coupon can only be used once at Wager Talk and once at Sports Memo, the value is unlimited and there is no limit on what you can add to your cart when redeeming. Daily, all access, season, pick your team, and even mix and match handicappers as the combinations are endless. Remember, there is no limit to the number of handicappers at Wager Talk and Sports Memo you can lock in, but coupon code GIFT25 will expire at midnight on Christmas. On behalf of everyone at Wager Talk, Sports Memo, and Gold Sheet, we want to thank you for supporting us in 2022 by watching our videos, following us on social media, and trusting us with your wagers. However you celebrate, we wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Hey guys, welcome in on a very, happy, I believe it is now Tuesday, December the 20th, and bowl season is upon us. Couple of games already under our belt here over the last week or so, plenty more still to come, and we're going to break down a few of these games, including the Birmingham Bowl, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, the Military Bowl, and the Liberty Bowl, all coming your way here with three of the finest at wagertalk.com. Three guys that are bound to make you profitable in a college football season, and they certainly have, including Dave Koken in the house, as is Tony Mejia. Good to see you feeling better, Tony. And, of course, Bryan Power. We had nobody else, not our fault, but pleasure to see you here, guys. Always good to see you there, Bryan. I joke, I kid. Dave,
I knew we weren't getting through the opening segment without a pot shot. I was like, oh my God, he's not going to take a pot shot. I knew.
Come on. You really think I was going to let you get away with it? Stop. Dave, welcome in straight from the college basketball show, which, guys, some great information on that. If you didn't have a chance to catch it out, check out what we just did with the college basketball show about some of these games and some handicapping tips there moving forward this year. Great information there. And Dave, we said, of course, college bowl season, you and Ralph have teamed up this year. You got a couple under your belt already, many more possibly still to come. What else is happening on your page over at wagertalk.com?
Well, college basketball, NHL. Golf is off now for a little while. I don't do NBA, but there's plenty going on, and everything's going pretty well.
Profits are rolling here, guys. 10 days left here. No reason not to make it a very profitable end to 2022. Tony Mejia, and can start by heading over to your page. What do you got for us here on this, the 20th day of December?
Well, I'll be in on this Boca Bowl tonight. I know that it's supposed to be rainy, so we'll have to see if that will factor into tonight's handicap. Oh, great. Somebody rang my doorbell, which is never fun, but I'm sure it's just a package. And my dog isn't yapping, so that's good. But yeah, got kids home now, home for the holiday, and busy with NBA stuff. Perfect still on 5% plays in the league, so we will have another one possibly tomorrow. I like the card a great deal. College basketball, obviously the World Cup is over, slightly profitable there. Had a future on Brazil or Argentina to win the World Cup, so was happy to see Lionel Messi finally get his first one for that country since '86. And then, yeah, looking forward to the rest of the bowl season. Started with a bad beat almost immediately because I was on the first half of UAB, and they were covering until Mac Hippenhammer got loose in that final minute there of the first half. So Miami covered barely, but we responded with a solid Saturday and skipped yesterday. Looking forward to getting back on track tonight.
All right. Well, it's plenty of opportunities here. You know that, Bryan Power. I know you had mentioned yesterday's on the shows, college basketball, NBA. Plenty on the card here for you this week, including a few bowl games, I believe.
Can't get rid of me, can you, Joe? No
No.
matter how hard you try. But, yeah, we are off to a 3-0 start in the bowls so far, which is fun. Two of them were sweats with Troy, and then the over on Boise State, North Texas, but Fresno State was easy. And we got 3 more lined up for you this week. You can get all 3 for just $29 at my page right now, and the first one goes tonight. So I will be joining Tony on the Toledo Liberty game. Hopefully we're on the same side.
Ooh, love it. Opportunities present themselves, guys. Let's dive into some of these games. We'll start with the Birmingham Bowl. Or no, we can start there. Leave it up there. Middle Tennessee. That's fine there. Well, I don't know which one this is here. Am I looking at the wrong one? Yes, the Hawaii Bowl, rather. I'm on the wrong day, but I got you. Middle Tennessee State versus San Diego State. A whale's vagina coming your way. A total of 49. San Diego State -7. You know, Dave, a little quarterback change there at San Diego State. They might have found a little something because that offense was putrid to start the season. What do you like about their chances of taking down Middle Tennessee State?
Well, the offense still isn't great, but the big difference is that Jeff Horton is calling the plays now, and that's an upgrade. The Aztec defense is solid. It's not as good as it's been in past years, but it's still good. And the main thing here is Middle Tennessee coming out of the pathetic Conference USA, it's a really bad conference. Now, that said, North Texas did get the money as a Conference USA team against Boise State. But if you watch that game, Boise probably should have won going away. They had some just bizarre defensive breakdowns that allowed North Texas to get down the field with big plays. To me, there's just a class difference here. I think San Diego State is the better entry. They'll do enough offensively. I think they'll be able to shut down the aerial attack of Middle Tennessee State, or at least limit it. So, you know, it's a big number. Anytime you're looking at San Diego State, you're kind of concerned when the spread's a touchdown or better. But I think the Aztecs on the right side in this game, just a better squad, and I think their defense will end up containing the Blue Raiders, and San Diego State gets the win and the cover.
Okay, there you go. San Diego State it is. The kid, I believe, Jalen Maiden is his name there, Tony Mejia. And, I mean, 5-2, averaging about 22, 23 points a game once he took over under center. Does that continue in this one against Middle Tennessee State? You willing to lay the touchdown?
I probably am. I haven't made a full decision, but for the sake of the show, I do like Middle Tennessee. Just to expand a little bit on the North Texas Boise game, man, did they let North Texas just get away with holding on that final drive. I'm livid. I mean, every single play there was clear holding, and they just ignored it, including the 2-point conversion. So maybe they wanted a great finish, but no. To North Texas' credit, they did hang around with Boise, but that final drive was BS. Regardless, as far as this matchup is concerned, it really boils down to turnovers. Can Middle Tennessee force them to hang around in this game? You know, there's San Diego State 6-1 when it avoids multiple turnovers in a game, 1-4 when it has 2 or more. So that's really the key. And Middle Tennessee is 5th in the country in turnover margin. They do have a veteran Cunningham, quarterback in Chase Cunningham, who should be able to get them into decent formations and whatnot against a solid Aztec defense, like Dave said, not as good as we've seen in the past, but still serviceable. But yeah, certainly San Diego State, the Aztecs are the rightful favorite in this matchup. You know, and if Maiden plays well, then they should win going away.
All right. Thinks it should be possible runaway here. Bryan Power, what are you thinking here? Any dog in this one, or is it Brady Hoke and company for you as well?
Well, it's fascinating to look at these teams now compared to September. When I played against San Diego State, and you kind of alluded to this, Joe, it was September 30th at Boise State, #Friday Mojo, by the way. They looked so inept before the quarterback change. I would have said you had to be drug tested if you would have thought this team was going to make it to a bowl. I've never been more confident in a game, I think, all year when I had a lead than I was with the Broncos in that one. But as we've all mentioned, a quarterback change took place, a play calling change took place, and Maiden, this is a fascinating stat I read. He became the Aztecs passing yards leader after his first start. Oof. That's how bad the passing game was the first month of the season. Now, they still had some stinkers offensively down the stretch, just 14 points against UNLV, just 3 against Air Force, both those games at home, too. And then if we can backtrack with Middle Tennessee State, they, of course, have that big upset against Miami in September. Everyone's like, oh, my goodness, Middle Tennessee State. Well, that no longer looks as big. Dave talked about Conference USA reeking, absolutely accurate. They played a much weaker schedule than San Diego State did. And even though Blue Raiders quarterback Cunningham throws for almost 3,000 yards, this team still has a negative yards per play differential on the year. That's not good. So when you combine the stronger schedule, the yards per play differential, I understand the big early line move in favor of San Diego State. And remember, they play in Hawaii basically every other year. It's a conference foe. Brady Hoke says his team wants to be here. Now, I know he's not going to say that we hate the game and don't want to do it, but I think by volunteering that information, it means something. This is a hard game to handicap traditionally. These guys probably know this through the years. Wacky results in this game. It's because some teams take it as a vacation, not a bowl. But I would make it 3 for 3 here and lay the points with the Aztecs.
Right. And just real briefly, Joe, check your weather forecast because there is a concern that there might be some showers for this game. First Hawaii Bowl in a few years due to COVID.
Okay, there you go, guys. Game number 1 there, the Hawaii Bowl. Let's check out the Quick Lane Bowl as we look at New Mexico State taking on Bowling Green in this one. Bowling Green laying to 3.5 right now. The total 47.5. December 26, 2:30 kickoff on this one. How about it, Dave? Are you leaning one way or the other in this matchup?
No, I think I'm going to stay out of this game. It's two teams that have no business being in a bowl game. But I know New Mexico State's excited. I mean, this is their second bowl in basically as long as I've been alive. And that's a real long time, okay? So they're excited. Bowling Green, I think, I like teams that exceeded expectations, and the Falcons definitely did that this year. So I think it could be a fun game. I have a feeling it's going to be very high scoring. I can't give you much else other than that because I don't hold. When you're talking about teams at this level, it's really tough to find consistency because they're just mediocre. But I think it's going to be a wide open playbook on both sides, and I would tend to think that leads to a high-scoring game. So entertaining, quick lane bowl, and I'll go with the over.
All right, leaning towards the over in this one. Mejia, what do you think? In Detroit, I believe, with this one. So weather won't be an issue. What do you think?
I mean, Scott Loeffler went 7-22 in his first 3 years, so it's definitely progress to see the Falcons in this game. They had a strong stretch there where they won 3 in a row. I don't remember them winning 3 in a row in years, probably since Dino Babers was there, but maybe a little more recently than that. But it's definitely been a tough stretch for Bowling Green. Ditto for New Mexico State, as Dave alluded to. They haven't been in a bowl since 1960 was their last bowl, and so to us, their 3-0-1 bowl record with a grain of salt. They happened to tie a bowl game. I didn't bother to go research when, but it was certainly before 1960. And they have been very strong defensively. Haven't allowed more than 14 points against a Group of 5 team since September, since playing Hawaii in the game. They won 45-26. They started out with a Nevada game. I think a lot of people may remember because a lot of people were on New Mexico State in that game, and it was turnover after turnover that allowed Nevada to pull away and actually cover in that win. But since then, they had that game against San Jose State canceled due to bereavement, and because of that, they got an extra game against Valpo, absolutely destroyed Valpo 66-3 or something like that. That got them into this game. In that game, though, their quarterback Diego Pavia got injured with a hammy, and he expects to play. So that's really the big deal for New Mexico State, is whether he'll line up. Terry Kill says he's about 90%. They won their last 5 games. This will be an interesting matchup, probably one I will stay away from as well. But yeah, certainly it's two teams that will actually want to be there. So if you're looking for teams that are engaged in a bowl, this is it.
It's going to be an interesting one, Brian Power. I guess, which defense has been pretty decent here this year. Which offense do you trust more, I guess, is what it comes down to here for you.
Well, look, as Dave put it, these two teams are, as really stretching the definition of bowl teams. I think they are two of my bottom three ranked. I got New Mexico State as the worst team in a bowl, Bowling Green third worst, UConn is the second worst for the two people out there who would care about that list. I'll just share that. But not sure you're going to find two teams more motivated to play in the Quick Lane Bowl the day after Christmas than these two because, New Mexico State, they've only been to one bowl since 1960, and then they scrambled to get that 12th game in against Valpo, as Tony pointed out, just so they could get the 6th win. Bowling Green has not been to a bowl since 2015, and for them, you'd expect, even though it's the day after Christmas, they're going to have some fan support there. It's just a 90-minute drive up to Detroit from campus. I'm not sure how popular the trip from Las Cruces to Detroit is the day after Christmas, despite the enthusiasm for being back in a bowl. These offenses were bad, Joe. New Mexico State really inflated their numbers by beating up on two FCS teams down the stretch. They only averaged 17.7 points per game on the road, and then Bowling Green had an outlier effort against Toledo where they put up 42. I've watched this team way more than I should have, and their offense kind of stinks. They can't run the ball, 17 points or less 7 times this year. One thing people are probably unaware of, the Falcons defense, top 10 in the country in sacks. In the country, that is, I would like to reiterate. The game's on a fast track, and it's a low total. So I could see why Dave would like the over. The quarterback situation seems like it's going to play out for New Mexico State, like Tony said. But I think I like the under here. I can't trust either of these offenses, unless if just both defenses no-show, and we won't know that till the game starts. I actually would lean towards the under here.
All right, leaning towards an under in this one here, guys. New Mexico State Bowling Green, Quick Lane Bowl, and we'll move on to the Camellia Bowl, which is going to feature Georgia Southern. Has this 3.5 they're laying against Buffalo. Total is 67 in here. And Dave, I guess if you look at this, you're probably looking at that total and going, I don't know. Is that enough points? Do you trust to lay the field goal with the hook? How do you approach this one?
Well, I have a rule, similar rule. Any team that's playing in any of these games that allows more than 200 yards per game on the ground, I ain't playing them. Okay, so that takes me away from Georgia Southern. But they're the better team here. The Buffalo is... I think their coach is pretty good, but there's just not a lot of talent on this team. So I don't know what to do with it. I really don't. A lot of these games end up being throwouts, and this is one of them. I can't take Georgia Southern. I won't take Georgia Southern because of the rushing defense. But I think they ought to beat this team because they're simply more talented. So if you want to take that as a nod to Georgia Southern, go ahead. But it's your money, not mine.
It was funny. Here, I think early on in the year, we had talked, Ralph Michaels on the show. We're all saying, this Buffalo team's going to be in for a long season, right? A lot of turnover, knew everything going on there. But they turned out to be pretty decent, rattled off a bunch of wins there right early on. So what do you think of their chances going on the road here in Alabama, I believe, and getting it done here?
Well, spoiler alert, Power got in on Slack a little before me, but I'm going to be right there with him. I like Georgia Southern a ton. Look, the strength of schedule thing is a big deal to me. Buffalo is in this bowl game based on a 5-game winning streak that they got. They beat UMass in that stretch, but the other 4 were all MAC opponents. We all know the MAC is the worst of the conferences in Division I at the FBS level. And, the most impressive win that they have out of those is Toledo. I mean, that was a legit win. They got it at home. This is the Kyle Van Treese Bowl. Van Treese was a quarterback at UB for the last few years. Now he's at Georgia Southern, putting up big numbers for Clay Helton. He was one of the more prolific passers at the FBS level this season. And Georgia Southern comes off a huge overtime win, double OT, 51-48 over Appalachian State at home. That was impressive. They played Marshall. They played the Raging Cajuns. So battle-tested. They come in far better tested than Buffalo does. The Bulls barely snuck into the bowl season with a 23-22 comeback win over Akron in a late season game, a matinee affair that they were expected to win by much more than they actually did. Didn't win it till late. And I know a lot of people watched that game because it was one of the few that was on. And most of the money was on Buffalo due to the fact that they needed to win to get bowl eligible. But yeah, I mean, I think Van Treese gets at it, gets after it against his former teammates. The Bulls have bad special teams, an inconsistent offense, and their defense is only good when they can create turnovers. If Van Treese plays well, I think Georgia Southern wins going away.
All right, there. The possibility of a blowout. Does that lead you to look at the total, Bryan Power, or any sort of side angle you're looking at here?
As Tony alluded to, I'm seeing this game pretty much the same way he is. Buffalo had a bad finish to the year, 0-4 against the number. Tony talked about the barely escaping Akron, who's a horrible team, as you know, Joe.
Yes.
Georgia Southern now didn't exactly knock them dead down the stretch. They lost 3 in a row, but they did get that win that Tony mentioned over App State to get 6-6. And Van Treese, I think, is the key here. It's a storyline. You know, I'm sure we're going to hear about it for 3 hours if you're watching the game, but he just flat out gives the Eagles a big edge offensively. Buffalo 1-6 when they allow 27 or more points. Georgia Southern allows 33.7 points per game, or averages 33.7 points per game, excuse me. Buffalo's 0-3 when they allow more than 283 pass yards in a game. Van Treese hit that mark in all but 4 games. This is probably going to be on my card. It's going to be the best bet on the show today. Give me Georgia Southern. The MAC is the weakest conference, and I'm going to be looking to play against them pretty regularly, I think, this bowl season.
All right, there you go. Georgia Southern it is for Mejia and Bryan Power. We got one more we'll break down for you before we take a look at some of the best bets here. But first, Responders Bowl. This is going to be Memphis taking on Utah State. 61.5 is the total. Memphis just over a touchdown favorite here. December 27th for this one. Dave, what do you think of this Memphis squad? They win by margin, or is it the dog for you in this one?
Yeah, unfortunately, the 4 games we're talking about are games I don't have strong opinions on. This line is curious to me because I think if you look at some of the numbers, Memphis is better. The line movement tells a different story. Utah State took early money in this game, and it really hasn't gone back the other way. I haven't checked today, but I think there's something to be said about that. Utah State, look, Blake Anderson's done a nice job with this team. I thought they'd be down this year after being really fortunate last year. They were down, but they've gotten better as the season goes along. And I have a feeling they're going to want – look, I don't think Memphis is going to be excited to play Utah State. And in minor bowls, I tend to look at the team, particularly if they're dogs, that I'm pretty sure is going to be more enthused to be there. I think it's Utah State. So even though Memphis is the better team, I think this is one of those games where the energy level is what gets you to the pay window. And I think Utah State finds a way to compete in this game.
Yeah, and they've done, the Mountain West there, Tony Mejia, have been pretty profitable as an underdog. I think 11-4 since 2015 in bowl matchups here. They're getting a little more into touchdown. Are you a believer in Utah State possibly not only covering, but hell, maybe even winning it outright?
Yeah, I mean, I like Blake Anderson too, and his team played much better down the stretch. Which is ironic because they lost their top 2 quarterbacks to injury. And Cooper Legas, I think that's how you say his name. He can beat you with his legs. He played really well down the stretch. They won't have their top running back though in this game. Calvin Tyler, 1,000-yard rusher, opted out. Memphis is also going to be without their top safety, Rodney Owens. He's focusing on the draft. So definitely monitor that because this is the one game out of the 4 we talked about where opt-outs and whatnot do play a factor. I think, for me, this is a Memphis team that's lost 5 of 7. They were in most games. I'm surprised Ryan Silverfield's seat wasn't a little hotter than it was just because of the fact that they seem to come up short in most contests. Their most recent loss was to SMU by 3 points. They lost to UCF in a game they should have won 35-28. They were in that in the 4th quarter. 10-point loss to Tulane. They lost that game to Houston. That was ridiculous. Where had that game in the bag in the 4th quarter. I think Houston rattled off like at least 14 points in the last minute and something, 133-32, lost a 4 overtime game to ECU. So, I mean, we could be talking about a 10-win Memphis team as opposed to a 6-6 squad. That being said, I think they are the more complete team out of these two. But I'm looking towards the total here, which I'll save for my best bet.
All right, good stuff there. How about it, Bryan Power? Which way you leaning in this matchup?
Well, I would be remiss if we did not bring up the last time we saw Utah State, worst beat of the year for anybody who was on them. That game against Boise State when they go from what looks like an outright win to not covering as a 17-point dog. You don't see that every year. They'd actually won 3 in a row before that, like Tony said. And close games really define these teams in 2022. Joe, Memphis, as Tony pointed out, a lot of close losses, 0-4 in games decided by 7 or less, 3 of those by a field goal or less. Utah State was 4-0 in games decided by 7 or less. And piggybacking off what Dave had to say, maybe that's why this line is so low, because, I think the Tigers, I'm shocked they're not laying double digits. I've got Utah State rated as one of the worst teams in a bowl, like 4th worst in terms of power ranking. And that line movement is pretty curious that they took money. So maybe, people are expecting they're going to be the more motivated side. I make the number double. I mean, double digits. I haven't decided to play it or not, but I think I wouldn't lay the points actually here. If I was going to play this game right now, we've still got some time to decide. Well, we have a full week still. So I'm leaning Memphis as of right now, but I'm going to keep an eye on that line, Joe, over the next several days.
All right, good stuff there. To remind me of all those interceptions and turnovers there, and just almost broke out in the highs remembering that game. Appreciate that. Go ahead,
I just want to mention one thing.
Sure.
And if the game, look, Memphis has a chance to crush this team.
Right.
But if it's close, I'm looking at it this way. If you're going to bet this game and you want the dog, screw the points. Just take the money line. If it's close, Utah State and Anderson will find a way to win this because he's simply the much better coach, in my opinion, in this game. So if it's close, Utah State to get the upset. If it's not close, then it means Memphis just killed them.
Right. That's good. That's a good point there. First Responders Bowl, guys. That's Memphis, Utah State. Now, when you put it all together, we'll figure out if there is one of these games these guys might be leaning towards a little bit more than the rest. And Tony Mejia, we'll start with you. Give me an idea. I mean, you had alluded to it there. Tell me which one of these games, in side or total, you're leaning at as the best bet.
I'm sure it's happened before, maybe in like a MAC champion going from winning the MAC title at Ford Field and then getting back into a bowl at Ford Field. But it's kind of a unique situation where Memphis closed its season at SMU with a 34-31 loss, and now they're right back at it at SMU Stadium for this First Responders Bowl. So familiarity for them over Utah State. Now Utah State's Blake Anderson has played Memphis before, probably not much of a history against SMU at Arkansas State, which is his previous stop. But he shared the fact that he has some familiarity with Memphis. And so I think this will be a high-scoring game. I think they'll get comfortable in the game. It certainly was not great to see Calvin Tyler out, considering I like the over. But I think they'll find a way to run the ball against the Tigers. And Memphis just seems to play close games. They seem to play high-scoring fourth quarters where anything can happen. So I look for both things to occur and get me over on 61.5 points. The weather's going to be cooperative. It looks to be like sunny in the high 50s in Dallas on the forecast on the 27th. So give me the over in Memphis and Utah State.
All right, there you go. Up and over that total. Dave, how about you? Leaning one way or the other here with these?
Yeah, we'll go into class differential on San Diego State or Middle Tennessee, and it's really what it comes down to. It's never a cinch laying a touchdown when they're in mounts with San Diego State because their offense is not the best, but it's been better, and I just think the two programs are at different levels. So I think San Diego State can shut down the Blue Raiders and win the game by 10-14, and that's enough to get them the money.
Boom. San Diego State it is. Brian Power, you're in agreement with Tony somewhere along the line here for a best bet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Tony alluded that he wanted this one too. I apologize, Tony. I'll
No,
next time I'll
fine.
make sure to wait till the end, and you could go first. But let's go with Georgia Southern again. Okay, they've got the big edge offensively. I'll run through the numbers one more time. Buffalo 1-6 when they allow 27 or more points. Georgia Southern averages 33.7. Buffalo's 0-3 when they allow 283 or more pass yards. Van Treese hit that mark in all but 4 games. Dave made the point, and he's certainly correct. Georgia Southern does have trouble stopping the run, but Buffalo, I believe, has some injuries in their running back room right now. So I think they'll be okay. I think you're probably going to get a lot of points in this game, but most of them are going to come from Georgia Southern. Lay it with Georgia Southern. That is today's best bet.
There you go. Lay it is, guys. And, of course, to recap one more time with them, Georgia Southern laying to 3.5 with Bryan Power. Mejia looking at a total there over to 61.5, Utah State and Memphis. And Dave likes the class differential here. San Diego State laying the touchdown to get it done. And you can visit all 3 of these gentlemen over at wagertalk.com. Visit their page now. Dave Koken, you heard Brian Power tell you about the games. He's already had a really nice run here in the bowl season. He's got another 3 locked and loaded, ready to go. Tony Mejia also ready to roll here. There's no reason, guys, whether it be college football here, national championships, whether it be the NHL, whatever it may be, opportunities are presenting themselves here as we close out 2022. If you visit Dave Koken, Tony Mejia, and Brian Power, we'll see if we can't go ahead and make it a profitable end to the season. And, of course, we'll be back again tomorrow. We will have 4 more bowl games. In fact, we'll break down for you and preview. And until then, on behalf of Dave Koken, Brian Power, and Tony Mejia, we appreciate the time, guys. Best of luck with all your plays here today. We'll talk to you again soon. Good luck.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.